While it may be rare, it is not unheard of for the last place team in a division to completely flip the script the next season and achieve first place. So, we're going to be going over all of the division losers today and talk about their chances to go from worst in 2023 to first in their division in 2024. Starting things off, a bit of a dishonorable mention, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who won their division last year. Now, there are 7 division winners poised and ready to go, standing a good chance of repeating in 2024, and then there's the Bucs, who didn't get better, are just another year older, and had to watch at least 2 and maybe all 3 of the teams in their division get drastically better. The Panthers are going to look completely different offensively. The Falcons have Kirk Cousins, an actual competent quarterback, and the Saints are always all right and have a good defense. I think the Bucs, of all the division winners from 2023, stand the best chance of going from first to worst in 2024.
Yeah, with the NFC South, it is basically a complete unknown because we don't know exactly what Kirk Cousins and Raheem Morris are going to look like with the Falcons, but we all think, me and Isaiah at least, they're going to win the NFC South. The Saints, they're always very consistent, and with the Panthers, their entire offensive personnel changed, giving them a solid chance to be a whole lot better than the 2 wins that they had last season. So as far as a team potentially going from the best team in their division, like a Chiefs, the Bucs are certainly one of the teams that won the division last year, even if they won it each of the last 3 seasons, that they could finish last place this year.
On to the losers. And starting things off, we'll go with the teams who have absolutely no shot of going from worst to first. And you can't begin that list without talking about the Patriots. I'm sorry, Boston fans. I'm not really. You've had it too good for too long, and now you are experiencing just a drop of the suffering you inflicted upon the rest of the NFL with Tom Brady. The Patriots are going to be terrible in 2024. Their offensive line stinks. Their weapons, non-existent. Their best offensive player is a fringe top 20 running back. Their defense lost its best edge and is a complete mystery what they're going to look like without Bill Belichick, the greatest defensive mind ever. I like Gerard Mayo. I think he will succeed long term. I am not optimistic about him year 1. It doesn't matter what quarterback they roll out there. Jacoby, Joe Milton, Drake May, whatever. They will not be able to produce in this system, and they will be finishing last in the AFC East yet again. Certainly will not be climbing over 3 teams to get to first.
When you move off of the greatest coach of all time, there's going to be a drop-off, and you mentioned some of the pieces they lost already. They don't have a lot of talent at the wide receiver position. Their receiver room is so bad that Brandon Ayuk had a chance to go to the Patriots, be one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL, and he said, nah, no thank you, I'll look elsewhere. So best case, dream scenario, in a perfect world for the Patriots is Drake May plays out of his mind and they win 7 games. That is it's not happening. They're going to win 2, but that is the best case scenario.
Let's be nice to the Patriots here. I don't blame him for dodging the Brandon Ayuk bullet. As time goes on, he's looking like more and more of a head case. Maybe it's a good thing they didn't tie a long-term contract to him. But yeah, the hopes, not high. Future, maybe. But right now, good luck. Keeping things going in the AFC, the South wasn't too bad last year, but we both think it's going to be better in 2024. That includes the Tennessee Titans. I think they'll win 6-7 games. Will Levis will look like an alright quarterback behind an improved offensive line with better weapons, with a defensive line which is still solid, but they're not winning that division. They just are. The Texans got better offensively, added Stephon Diggs, added a phenomenal edge in Danielle Hunter. May have lost Cashman, may have lost Grenard, still very good defensively. The Colts, complete unknown. They've got a good O-line, they've got a good D-line, they've got Jonathan Taylor, they are deep at receiver, being led by Michael Pittman, and if Anthony Richardson can even sort of work out or stay on the field, they will be just fine. Even if he goes down, Joe Flacco is a pretty good backup quarterback. We saw what he did in Cleveland for stretches. The Colts win more than the Titans. As for the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence finally has some weapons. He has Christian Kirk, Brian Thompson, improved offensive line. He's got one of the best front sevens in all of football backing him up defensively. Doug Peterson in a prove-it year. Travis Etienne, very solid running back. I don't see them losing more games than the Titans, which leaves Tennessee in last place in the division. Maybe you say the Colts or the Jaguars fall apart. Maybe for whatever reason it doesn't work out in Houston. Fine. I'll give you some of those. All three of those are not happening simultaneously, which it would take for the Titans to leap from worst to first.
Yeah, I think the Titans are going to be worse than you think they're going to be. But even if I give in to the idea that delusional Titans fans have kind of put forward as to why they're going to be so much better than they were last year, Will Levis is going to take the next step. The receiver room is wildly improved. They have a new head coach. They have things more put together on the offensive side of the ball. Even if you give in to those notions, compare the team to the rest of their division. Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback. CJ Stroud is a better quarterback. I think Anthony Richardson is going to be a much better quarterback, even though we have a much smaller sample size with him. You look at the running backs, I'd rather have the running backs playing on all three of the other teams. I think I'd rather have
Joe Mixon's marginal over Tony Pollard. It's marginal. It's an offensive line thing at that point.
I think Joe Mixon is capable of a significantly more carries over the course of a season.
Now, that may be true, but I don't think they're going to make him carry the ball 300 times, but that's getting off topic.
I'd prefer him, if that is fair to say.
So you prefer a domestic abuser?
Oh.
All right.
Okay.
I see who you really are.
Receiver room. I'd prefer the Texans. I would prefer the Jaguars wide receiver room over the Titans. And the Colts, I think they have a very solid receiver room if Adonai Mitchell is very good as a rookie. So the Titans, even though maybe you could say they improved, they're not as good as the rest of their division, and you put it perfectly. Maybe two of those other teams have unforeseen fall-offs, but the odds of all three of them falling off and the Titans jumping all three of them, I think are close to zero.
Worth noting, I think the Titans have a very underrated defensive line. I think they've got the best nose tackle in the division, or defensive tackle in the division. I prefer Simmons to DeForest Buckner on the Colts. That's probably going to win them some games. Week 1, they have the chance to exploit a weak Bears interior offensive line, maybe pull off an upset against Caleb Williams and company. But conversely, they're going to be missing DeAndre Hopkins early in the year due to injury, which just chips away at that win total even further. I don't think the delusional Titans fans are saying they're going to be much better. I think they're saying they're going to win 7 games as opposed to the 6 they won last. They're not Titans fans screaming from the rooftops that this is a double-digit win team. The homers are not homing that hard. On over to the NFC East. We've got the Washington Commanders. And I like Jayden Daniels. I think he leaves himself open to some big hits, but he is tremendously talented. I like B-Rob. Terry McLaurin, very underrated. Their offensive line has gotten better. It'll be better than a lot of people give them credit for. They're better coached than they were last year. Defensively, Bobby Wagner is a big addition. I know the meme is, oh, he's old and washed up. Still a great run defender. Still masks some weakness in the passing game with his high football IQ. They'll be a better team in 2024. But they have got to go through the Eagles, who drastically improved their secondary, who improved both their coordinators, who hopefully will have a healthy Jalen Hurts for the duration of the season. And they've got to go through the Dallas Cowboys, who may have lost Tyron Smith and Tony Pollard, will be worse offensively, maybe even a little worse defensively given some of the injuries they're dealing with in their secondary, but are just a better team. There's no two ways about it. You're not taking Dak Prescott, or you're not taking a rookie Jayden Daniels over Dak Prescott. You're not taking the Cowboys supporting cast and weapons with CeeDee Lamb under contract over what Washington's rolling out. You're not taking the Commanders' offensive line over the Cowboys' offensive line. The Cowboys are just a better team. The Eagles are just a better team. They'll be better than the Giants because the Giants have Daniel Jones playing quarterback for them, or they've got Tommy DeVito playing quarterback for them, which is a nice guaranteed 12 losses minimum. But they're not hopping those two teams. They've got no chance of being better than the Eagles and better than the Cowboys.
That is exactly how I feel. I mean, Jayden Daniels, I like Jayden Daniels. They have Terry McLaurin, but they don't have all that much else, especially when you're comparing them to the Cowboys and Eagles. I mean, everyone knows how talented the Eagles are. The receivers, Saquon, Jalen Hurts, the offensive line, the defense, like he said, improved. And then comparing them directly to the Cowboys have Dak Prescott, who during the regular season is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Playoffs is a different story. The Cowboys have a very solid defense led by Micah Parsons. So they certainly have a very good chance of jumping the Giants compared to last year, but they don't have the talent quite yet to compete with the other top teams in the NFC East.
I think worth noting, and I'm going to use this segment to do a little praising here, Brian Robinson is a really good running back. He was hindered 2 years ago because he got shot, hindered last year by missing 2 games and having Antonio Gibson in the backfield with him. With Austin Eckler, who is so much more of a receiving back, more of a third down back, he is going to get the lion's share of the carries. He is going to go from 750 rushing yards to over 1,000. 1,100 yards from scrimmage over 15 games, maybe 1,400 in total. He is going to be the unheralded engine to that Commanders offense. They can match up running back wise, I think, any team in the division besides Saquon Barkley and the Eagles. And even Saquon Barkley, if he's got some of the lingering injuries we've seen with him over the course of his career, maybe that slows him down, but I'm grasping at straws here to praise the Commanders. They're not going to win the
Yeah, I'm not that big of a fan of Brian Robinson, but we don't need to get into a Brian Robinson debate.
Yeah, you were the guy who shot him, so I understand why you'd be upset at it. Headed out west, you've got the Arizona Cardinals. And like many of the other teams we talked about, they're going to be much better in 2024. It would be hard for them not to be. They've got a defensive-minded head coach. They'll be better on that side of the ball as that system has time to matriculate. Their offensive line, very underrated. Great run blockers. James Conner, phenomenal runner of the football. There are few running backs I would rather have than him in short yardage situations. Trey McBride, everyone's vastly overrating him in fantasy football, but he's still a pretty solid tight end. And they've got the marvelous Marvin Harrison Jr., who has yet to sign his NFLPA contract. But we all know how great he can be. There was a reason he was getting talked about as the first overall pick. Maybe the Bears select him. He goes in there and saves the franchise with Justin Fields as opposed to Caleb WIllaims. Obviously, it did happen, but phenomenal talent. No better receiver in college football last year. And they've got a healthy Kyler Murray. So this team could win 9-10 games. But what it comes down to for me, why I think they actually have a decent shot of winning their division, is I think the Seahawks are kind of dysfunctional. Their defensive front seven, not good. They're going to have a quarterback battle at some point in the year with Sam Allen, Geno Smith. That never leads to anything successful. I think the Rams are old, plain and simple. I think Stafford and Kupp's health, a big question mark. They're trying to replace Aaron Donald, the greatest defensive tackle of this century, with 2 rookies on their defensive line. I don't think that's going to work out. I think they'll be worse. And you've got the 49ers, who are going to miss their best player to start the season unless they get him under contract ASAP in Trent Williams. And Brandon Ayuk still has not been signed. So I could see the 49ers faltering out of the gate, going 1-3 in their first 4 games or so, having to make up ground. Conversely, Cardinals come out hot, have the advantage. I could see them holding on to it for the rest of the year. I don't think it's super likely. I think the 49ers are still top to bottom a better team even without those guys, but the conversation is there for me.
The Cardinals will be better than they were last year. There's a reason they had the 3rd overall pick. They were a bad team. Having Kyler Murray and adding Marvin Harrison Jr. to that offense, James Conner, Trey Benson, the rookie running back they added, the offensive line should be better. They'll be a better team. But I don't really think they have close to a great chance or close to a chance at making or competing for the division title this year, because I think from a talent perspective, they're still a year away at being what the 49ers look like from a talent perspective, what the Rams look like. I think the Rams are going to be incredibly good. I think they're wildly talented on offense. Unlike Isaiah, I don't think they're going to take as big a step back with Aaron Donald not on the field anymore as he does. So I think those are the 2 top teams in the NFC West, and the only way I could see the Cardinals going from worst to first is if there's an injury to a Matthew Stafford and to a Brock Purdy that allows the Seahawks to be the Cardinals' only real competition for the division title.
Well, Purdy is going to open himself up to injury by playing behind an offensive line, missing their best player, who really isn't that good when you get right down to it outside of Trent Williams. Matthew Stafford, old injury prone. Cooper Kupp, old injury prone. It's not impossible that happens. Of all the teams who could really struggle with injuries in the NFL, quite a few of them play in the NFC West. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the 49ers still win the division, but the path is there. Another team where the path is clearly there is the Carolina Panthers. We've already talked about how we think the Bucs are not winning the division. They've gotten another year older. Their weapons are aging. Mike Evans might go for less than 1,000 yards. I don't think their O-line is as good as it's been in recent years. Their defense just keeps getting older and older. Baker Mayfield is not good when he's comfortable. When Baker Mayfield is on the hot seat fighting for his job unpaid, that is when he is at his best, both collegiately and professionally. The Saints, they're in cap hell. Who knows what the Saints are going to be? Is Derek Carr going to be the long-term starter? Are we going to see Spencer Rattler at some point? How's their defense going to hold up? They're getting a little bit older too. The weapons, not great. O-line, not great. Falcons, we both think they're going to be good, but it's still an old Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury. That could meaningfully backfire on them, and they could wind up with Michael Penix playing sooner than expected, and he might not be ready. He's still a rookie. I know he's 28, 29, 30, an old rookie, but a rookie nonetheless. Meanwhile, the Panthers, completely new offensive system. They've got Dave Canales, who saved the career of Geno Smith, who saved the career of Baker Mayfield in back-to-back seasons, and can certainly save the career of Bryce Young. Better weapons, Xavier Legette, Deontay Johnson, deeper backfield. Chuba Hubbard still probably has control, but meaningful threats to his, not threats, but meaningful compliments to his production are now there. Defensively, they were good in 2023. Losing Burns hurts, but that unit still should be solid. The NFC South always is competitive. Teams beat each other in that division. No one ever runs away with it. So for that reason, I think the Panthers have a decent shot. I think the Falcons wind up standing in their way, but like the Cardinals, I see the path.
The last time the Panthers won the NFC South, it was 2015 when they went 15-1 and lost in the Super Bowl. So if they're actually able to accomplish this, this would be a major thing for their franchise. It would make the Panthers watchable again. Now, I don't think it's all that likely. I would still favor the Falcons because I think Kirk Cousins is going to do big things with Bijan Robinson and Drake London in that offense. At the end of the day, Kirk Cousins and Raheem Morris are a massive unknown. We don't know if they're going to live up to our expectations for certain. With the Saints, they're kind of always a 7 to 9 win team. Same thing goes for the Buccaneers. Even though they've won it each of the last 3 seasons, it hasn't been in dominant fashion, only when Tom Brady was their quarterback, which he's no longer there anymore. So with those things taken into consideration, and you look at the fact they added Xavier Legette in the draft, they added Deontay Johnson. Jonathan Brooks may not play the first couple of weeks, but he's a wildly talented running back, and they spent a lot of money on their offensive line. So the path for them to win the NFC South for the first time in 9 years is certainly there. I don't think it's going to happen, but the path is clear and obvious.
It all comes down to if Bryce Young can be what he was drafted to be. Obviously, last year, massive failure. The rest of the team was not NFL ready, but he's talented. He's got a great arm, he's got great vision, and he's got great legs. If he goes for 4,000 passing yards, maybe adds another 500 on the ground, that nasty little dead leg he's got, the Panthers will be in good shape to win the South. On up in the North, we've got the Chicago Bears, finished 7-10, same record as the Vikings. And they're clearly a better team. They're going to be better than the Vikings. They've got Caleb WIllaims, who despite being a rookie, will be a drastic upgrade over Justin Fields and Bajan Zero. They improved at wide receiver, added Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. Their defense should still be good. We saw they looked after they added Sweat at the trade deadline. But I don't think they're getting past the Lions. This division runs through Detroit. And I don't think they're getting past the Packers. I think they're going to be on a comparable level as Green Bay. And historically, Green Bay has owned the Bears. I see no reason for Green Bay not to own them in 2024. I've got to see the Bears beat the Packers for my opinion on that matchup to change.
If you look at the Bears and ignore just a few things and only look at the hype that Caleb WIllaims has had, and if he lives up to that hype, you look at their wide receiver room with Rome Odunze. If he is a top 10, if he lives up to being a top 10 talent, you have DJ Moore if he continues to be what he was last season. And with Keenan Allen, if he does not fall off from what he was last year due to age, that's the best wide receiver room in the division. They have a very solid offensive line. The backfield is very good. The defense is very good. So just based on those facts alone, it is not inconceivable that they go from 7 wins to maybe 11 or 12 wins. Now, the reason I don't think that is all that likely is because they don't have some things that other teams in their division have. The Lions, they have continuity. They've been building a culture. They've slowly built and figured out how to win. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs was a rookie last year, but now he's in year 2. They have all of the pieces to get things done, and they're not dealing with a rookie quarterback, a new offensive coordinator, a wide receiver room. While it is wildly talented, it is the first time they're all playing together in a brand new system. Same thing goes for the Packers. They have continuity within a talented wide receiver room, within a talented offense. It is the same offensive coordinator, the same head coach. They picked up towards the end of last season. So due to that, I don't think it's all that likely to happen, but the path, much like with the Panthers, I think is clear and obvious.
The problem is, and it's people like you and others overhyping Caleb WIllaims. You're putting the expectations a little bit too high, in my opinion. This is more of an issue with Caleb WIllaims and how he's going to be treated by the fans, by the media, than it is with the Bears themselves. He is going to struggle early. He is playing in a much faster system than he is used to in college. He is playing by an offensive line which has good tackles but is weak on the interior, and they play some tough matchups for that, particularly early. Week 1, Jeffrey Simmons coming right at you. If you hold on to the ball too long against him, you're going to be sacked 3 times. And he is going to wind up playing in Chicago outdoors later in the year. Regardless of if he's a rookie or not, that system, that environment eats quarterbacks alive. It's hard to be a quarterback in Chicago. WIllaims is going to struggle, in my opinion. And even if they get to that 10-win threshold, I think they lose division games late, which is going to ultimately cost them the title. The path, like the Panthers, like the Cardinals, it's there, but it's not going to be walked down. Now, on to 2 teams which have a good shot of going from worst to first. Headed out to the AFC West, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers, and they are a completely different team. They've got a new coach. They've got new weapons. They've got an improved offensive line. They've got a healthy Justin Herbert. And their defense should still be great. In fact, it should be better from a talent standpoint. Their linebacker room has improved through the draft. They held on to Mack. They held on to Bosa. They've still got some big names in their secondary. And they've got a defensive play caller who is in a different stratosphere than the one who just left. And of course, they've got Justin Herbert. This is a good football team. This is a team which could win 10, 11 games. And in a division with the Broncos and the Raiders, that will at the very least get you second place. As for the Chiefs, I think they've gotten a little bit worse this offseason, and I think they've got a bad habit of taking their hands off the steering wheel as the season goes on. They lose a few of those close games. They only win 11 or so, 10 or so, and the Chargers are right there competing for the division title. Ultimately, I don't think they're going to get it, but they've got a very good shot. They're going to finish within a game of Kansas City. They're going to be a wild card team in the NFC. It's all going to be thanks to a healthy Herbert and Jim Harbaugh's acquisition.
The Chargers have a very real chance because they only have to jump the Broncos and the Raiders. I don't think the Broncos are winning more than 7 games this year. I think the Raiders are going to be much better than other people give them credit for, but I'd be surprised if they get to that double-digit win total threshold. And then at that point, it is just the Chiefs, which if the Chiefs do what they did last year and they kind of take their foot off the gas pedal for a couple games, maybe they struggle with a few injuries, and then you have the Chargers, who are going to be a much more cohesive unit. I think are going to be significantly better on both sides of the ball with a healthy Justin Herbert. Let's say they could then get to 10, 11 wins or even 12 wins. Then all the Chiefs need to do is kind of, as I stated, have taken their foot off the gas pedal, maybe drop one here or there with the Chargers, finish a game lower than the Chargers, maybe even tie, and then it goes to a tiebreaker for the Chargers. So I think they are one of the best chances at going from worst to first in 2024. I don't think it's super likely, as with a lot of these teams, just because I think the Chiefs are going to be phenomenal, and I think they're still going to win 12 games, but I think there's a very good chance we could see that happening.
Worth noting, Jim Harbaugh, wherever he has gone, whether that be at Stanford, taking out USC, the 49ers, taking out Pete Carroll and the Seahawks, Michigan, taking out Michigan State, Ohio State, he beats his rivals. It may take him some time. He might need to build the program a little bit, but he's done a good job building this team up year 1. It wouldn't shock me if he pulled off a little bit of that Harbaugh magic and sent the Chiefs off to the wild card round. But the team most likely to go from worst to first, the team with a very real shot, a 50-50 shot, is the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC North. And the AFC North is kind of the inverse of the NFC South. Well, every team in the NFC South is kind of mediocre to bad. Every team in the AFC North is good, or at the very least has an elite defense. Last year, the Bengals lost the division because Joe Burrow went down, and even when he was healthy, struggled with injury. They had to roll out Jake Browning as their quarterback. They had some other injuries. Their defense didn't play as well as they could have. With a healthy Joe Burrow, with 2 offensive tackles who are substantially better than what they've seen in recent years, they've got Brown and Brown with Mims ready to back them up. They're going to be able to keep him up and on the field. T. Higgins is playing. Jamar Chase is playing. They're going to raid opposing teams through the air. It doesn't matter if they play in the cold outdoor weather of Cincinnati, of Cleveland, of Pittsburgh, of Baltimore. They are going to torch secondaries. For that reason, I think they have a very good shot of challenging the Ravens and the Browns for that division title. The Bengals are going to be good in 2024?
This one shouldn't really need all that much of an explanation. I mean, Joe Burrow, the years he's been healthy, they've won the AFC North. The only caveat to that, the years Joe Burrow has been healthy, Lamar Jackson wasn't healthy for the Ravens. So this year, hopefully we get a year in which Joe Burrow is healthy the entirety of the season and Lamar Jackson is healthy the entirety of the season. And looking back at last year, they finished 9-7. So if Joe Burrow wasn't dealing with that calf injury at the beginning of the year and then didn't go down midway through that Ravens game, it is entirely conceivable they pick up anywhere from 1 to 3 more wins, finish with 10 to 12 wins, and are in the playoffs. I mean, I'll give it to Jake Browning. He was good for the Bengals last year, went 4-2 as a starter, but Joe Burrow wins some of those games even when he was playing, if he was healthier, and wins, like I said, maybe one of those Steelers games down the stretch of the season. So just transitioning that to this year, they're going to have him healthy. They're going to be better than the Steelers. They're going to be better than the Browns, in my opinion. And at that point, all they have to do is jump the Ravens. This is a team that's been to the playoffs, made major moves in the playoffs, been to a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow, so they have the best chance from the worst teams last year at winning their own division.
The one problem with the Bengals, that's really two problems, which is why I may even favor the Chargers as a more likely team to go from worst to first, is the Bengals do not have a great running game. The interior of that O-line still not good. They lost Joe Mixon and replaced him with Zach Moss. That's a downgrade. And their defense is the worst in the division. It's not a bad defense by any means, but it's clearly worse than the Ravens, Browns, and Steelers. No one's arguing that. So, given how the AFC North plays football, I think that could maybe come back to bite them. It's all going to come down to, though, how much Joe Burrow elevates that offense from where he was last year as an injured player or with Jake Browning as the starter. I think they've got a good shot. I have a lot of faith in Joe Burrow. There's a reason I am drafting him and T. Higgins in my fantasy leagues. I think they're going to be great in 2024. But if there is something to hold them back, it'll be their defense and it'll be their running game. Oh, they're also not well coached. Let's keep it a buck. Zach Taylor is the worst coach in that division. Maybe Stefanski.
Underrated coach.
Very, very overrated. Give me Harbaugh, give me Tomlin. Depending on the day, give me Stefanski. But those were our thoughts on the teams most likely or least likely to go from worst to first. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Are we vastly underrating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Are we disrespecting them? Are they going to win their 5th straight division title? Am I insane for saying the Cardinals have a real shot of winning the NFC West? Let us know down in the comments. If you're still here, like, share, subscribe. That is tremendously appreciated. We will see you in the next video.
And if you want to check out Underdog Fantasy, do their daily pick'em contest, participate in their Best Ball Mania contest, where I believe first place is winning $2 million this season. Use code Thicc when you sign up. Bonus cash up to $500, and we'll see you in the next one.